She stood with her hands folded in front of her, eyes fixed on the dirt floor of the barn. Her voice barely carried over the wind slipping through the wooden slats. "I'm not pretty," she whispered, like it was a confession she'd practiced for years. Silence followed, heavy and uncomfortable, the kind she expected. The cowboy didn't answer right away. He leaned against a post, hat low over tired eyes, studying her not like a buyer at a market, but like a man measuring truth. Finally, he said quietly, "That's fine. I need honest, not fancy." The words landed softer than kindness, steadier than pity. Her name was Clara Mayfield, and honesty had never saved her before. She'd grown up learning how quickly worth could be measured and dismissed. In a small Missouri town where looks were currency, she'd always come up short. Too plain, too quiet, too much work for too little reward. Ethan Cole had heard all of it before, from other people, about other women, about himself. The ranch sat 3 miles outside town, wide and unforgiving, like the man who ran it. He'd buried his softness years ago, along with his wife, in a grave overlooking the south pasture. Clara had arrived that morning with a single bag and no plan beyond survival. Her aunt had sent her saying the rancher needed help and didn't ask questions. That alone had sounded suspicious. Clara had learned that men who didn't ask questions usually weren't worth trusting. But Ethan did ask questions, just not the ones she feared. He asked if she could cook for 6 men, if she could rise before dawn, if she minded quiet evenings and long winters. When she answered yes to each, he nodded like that was all that mattered. She waited for the moment when his eyes would narrow, when disappointment would show. It never came. Instead, he handed her a cup of coffee and pointed toward the house. "You'll have your own room," he said. "Dinner's at 6. You eat with us." That night, Clara lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of a working home. Boots on wood, laughter she didn't recognize, wind moving freely, like it wasn't afraid of being heard. For the first time in years, no one had asked her to stay invisible. Work on the ranch was hard but honest. Clara's hands blistered, then hardened. She cooked, cleaned, mended, learned the rhythm of the place. Ethan never hovered. He trusted her work without inspection, which felt dangerous at first, like kindness that might vanish if she leaned into it. The men noticed her too, but not in the way she feared. They treated her like part of the machinery of the ranch, essential, respected, not decorative. One of them once joked, "You work harder than most of us." Clara smiled, unsure how to receive praise without suspicion. Ethan watched quietly from a distance. He noticed how she flinched when voices rose, how she apologized for things that weren't mistakes. He saw the way she folded herself smaller when visitors came, like she was bracing for judgment that never arrived. One evening, after a long day of repairs, they sat on the porch as the sky turned amber. Clara broke the silence. "You don't look at me like other men do," she said, careful not to accuse. Ethan exhaled slowly. "I'm tired of wanting what shines," he replied. "It burns out fast." Her laugh surprised them both, short, disbelieving. "You make it sound easy." He shook his head. "It's not. It's lonely. But honest things usually are." The words settled between them, not romantic but grounding, like a fence post driven deep into soil. The town took notice eventually. Whispers followed Clara when she came in for supplies. Some women pitied her, some scoffed. One asked bluntly what she'd done to land a place with Ethan Cole. Clara answered honestly. "I worked," she said. That answer seemed to offend them more. Trouble arrived in the form of Ethan's brother-in-law, a smooth-talking man with polished boots and empty eyes. He visited unannounced, commenting on Clara's appearance with thinly veiled contempt. "Didn't know you hired plain help," he said. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. That night, Clara packed her bag without telling anyone. She'd learned when to leave before kindness soured. Ethan found her at the gate, bag at her feet. "What are you running from?" he asked. Her voice broke. "The moment you realize I'm not enough." He stepped closer, not touching her. "I already know what you are," he said. "You show up. You tell the truth. You stay. Clara shook her head. Those things don't last. Ethan answered simply. They do here. Winter came early. Snow buried the pastures, work slowed, and evenings grew long. Clara and Ethan spoke more then, about loss, about mistakes, about lives that hadn't turned out the way they'd planned. There was no grand confession, just shared silence that felt like understanding. One night the stove failed and they worked side by side to fix it. Their hands brushed briefly. Clara froze, waiting for the moment to shatter. Ethan pulled back first, respectful, steady. You don't owe me anything, he said. The words were a gift she didn't know how to open. Spring brought change. The ranch prospered. Clara stood taller, laughed louder. She no longer apologized for existing. When she caught her reflection in a window one morning, she didn't turn away. She looked like someone who belonged somewhere. The town's opinion shifted slowly, grudgingly. They saw how Ethan listened to her, how she ran the house like it mattered. Some kindness followed. Some didn't. It no longer defined her. She had learned that worth didn't need witnesses. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Ethan spoke without ceremony. I'm not good with fancy words, he said, but I don't want to imagine this place without you. Clara felt fear rise, old and familiar, but she stayed. I'm still not pretty, she said softly. Ethan smiled just slightly. Good, he replied. I'd worry if you were trying to be. He reached for her hand, not claiming, not demanding, just offering. She took it, not because she was chosen, but because she chose back. Their love didn't arrive like lightning. It settled like morning light, slow and undeniable, built from work, trust, and quiet honesty. And for the first time in her life, Clara understood something simple and lasting. She had never been too plain, only too real for shallow eyes.